All right, welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show. Much better connection here on Game Time TV. Michael Dell soon to be joined by Rick Petty once he reconnects. We welcome those of you tuning in for the first time ever, finding us after what can be only described as quite a terrific experience yesterday. I will wait to tell my situation until Rick gets here. But welcome to the Monday show known as the Ultimate Hockey Show. Good evening, Rob. Rick will be here in just 1 second. Um, the joys of internet crashing right before the show, requiring a bit of a reboot. As you can tell, I'm wearing my Jets jersey. I have taken it off only temporarily since yesterday. It goes back in the closet tomorrow until game time. 8:30 on Wednesday. The Jets will play the Dallas Stars. Second round will begin tonight. The Leafs are hosting Florida at 7 o'clock. But first, it's the NHL Draft Lottery, which will come up at the top of the hour with the right to get the first overall pick on the line. And for the first time ever, the NHL will be putting doing the actual lottery right in the room. So we'll be able to see exactly who gets the number one overall pick, where we'll actually get to see the numbers and the balls coming out of the machine. But anyway, nonetheless, we'll get to that in just a minute. It is the um, draft lottery tonight, followed by the first game between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. So the other series, just for the second round, while we wait for it, is going to be the Edmonton Oilers and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. That is the other side of the West. The Metropolitan final is going to be the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes, and the um, Atlantic Division final, which we're going to see starting tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers, starting at Scotiabank Arena. So this weekend has been also with two great Game 7s in both the Central Division and the both Central Division series that's requiring Game 7, and the Dallas Stars coming out on the front end of a Game 7 following a 2-goal rally. Actually, was it overtime? It wasn't. They were down 2-0, and then 4-2. Mikko Rantanen 4 points in the third period, 3 goals and an assist as well. Well, we'll talk about it once we get to I just the Mikko Rantanen decision will be questioned by the Colorado Avalanche and their fans. In particular, I do have something of a solution as to why the Avalanche maybe did that. But again, not the upper management of the Colorado Avalanche. I think they deserve full credit. Um, they literally overhauled their team in the over the course of the season, starting with the goaltending tandem, getting Brock Nelson, getting a couple other pieces toward the trade deadline. Now, the attention potentially goes from Brock Nelson to Nathan MacKinnon's ability to recruit Sidney Crosby to join the Colorado Avalanche, as both MacKinnon and Crosby will be playing for Canada at the upcoming World Hockey Championship, which will be taking place later on this month. I think Canada plays an exhibition game either last night or this afternoon against the Austrians. Also got news from the tournament that Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be one of the goaltenders. Now, on the preliminary roster for Canada, it looks like there was only one goaltender. There's no goaltenders on the preliminary roster of 15. But that is where we are right now. We will talk about the Game 7 for the Jets and Colorado Avalanche in just a moment. I'm a bit curious why Rich hasn't joined us yet. Yeah. All right. She should have been right behind me. But anyway, that's a technological aspect. Rob also told us in the chat that Canada has beat Austria 5-1 after 2 goals from Ryan O'Reilly. So, sorry guys, there's just a couple technical glitches. I wonder if Rick's internet also went a little bit haywire at the same time mine did. We're not on the same connection, but we could be. But maybe we will wait for it to get here. In the meantime, I should maybe qualify and kind of start my situation yesterday. For those that don't know, I had the privilege of attending Game 5 of the series. I think I said that on last week's show. Quite epic. The Jets winning game number 5, losing game number 6. So fast forward to yesterday. I did a message from the guy that I got the tickets for game 5 with, saying he had one more ticket for game number 7. And I got this phone call or text message. Sorry, about 1 o'clock ish. So got to a price, and then it turned out I had street party tickets that I was giving away through the company, but also have my own. Had to find a taker for the street party tickets, was able to do that. Get into the building. Ended up meeting Jesse Pollitt from IC. None the idea. So saw Pollitt from IC, Pollitt formerly of IC, actually now with Bar Down on the street. Ended up running into, he doesn't know this, but I saw him. Winnipeg Free Press reporter Ken Weeb and a couple of other media. For those unparticular with the setup, you can kind of see the setup for the whiteout parties as to who is the media versus the attendance. People in attendance typically wearing white. Media personalities. Yesterday was not the day for the suit, let me tell you. Commendable for those that did. I couldn't do it. Largely in part because of wedding experiences. With the wedding experiences with, black suit, hot weather. Not less than ideal for sure. So the media members were easy to be picked out versus the white clad of fans. So I was at the street party from about 4:10 to 5:05. Then started walking my way into the building. Going up toward the upper bowl where I was sitting. Made an appearance on another local podcast late night with Smitty last night. Before entering the bowl to sit down. Atmosphere really, really quite something. To be honest, never experienced anything quite like that. I would say warm up was better in game number 5. But I think there was a lot of nervous energy when we talked about Game 5 to Game 7. In talking to some people at the event, both events yesterday, whether it was the street party or going in the building, there was a shot, I don't think was the right word, but like surprise that it went to Game 7. Especially with the Jets up 2-0. You never would have anticipated there being game number 7 in that type of scenario. But yeah, it was what it was. St. Louis scoring early, of course, takes the life out of the building, as you know, unfortunately. But again, it's you have to stick with it. Not a fan of particularly the second goal. You could feel the air come right out of the balloon from about 20 feet in the shot. And it's like, oh, that collective groan of, oh no, here we go again. Just did a goal back. Perfetti. Perfetti on the power play, kind of golf chip shot on the power play, I think would be the best way to put it. And then it was one of those things where the last minute of the period is always tricky in my mind. You're up 2-1. You played significantly better in the latter stages of the second period. And then that third goal goes in. Hey, good evening, Rick. Welcome back. And then 3-1. You put the balloon kind of on edge, if you will. Never a good feeling to have a goal in the last minute of a period, up by 1. The common theme in a lot of that is Hellebutts in the net, pretty deep in the net on a lot of those goals. Jets get 1 with about 2 minutes and 27 seconds left with 3-2. It's a pretty good time to start heading to the door. They're gone. There's probably about me and 4 other people in the row. And then 3-3, thinking, okay, you know what? There's a chance. Timeout. Get everything kind of in order. St. Louis misses the net on a couple empty netters, and the Winnipeg Jets find a way to tie the game. 2 seconds left. The remarkable thing is just Fannin on the shot, having the presence of mind to get the puck back, those cross ice, Kyle Connor. And then in the meantime, Cole Perfetti cut into the middle, and then the third forward, whoever that was on the line yesterday in that tying goal, had the presence of mind to box out Robert Thomas to even make that play possible. And the next thing you know, chaos ensues in the building, 3-3, and you're in overtime. And let's just say the poor overtime intermission entertainment, you couldn't hear it. There was a crazy amount of noise for 10, 15 minutes, and first overtime, nothing. Second overtime, actually, the most impressive part actually was the delay of game penalty, where a lot of people kind of thought the game was going to be won there. Just don't get anything. Don't forget, this was the game where they lost Morrissey, too. And to have the guys play the way they did, and then Adam Lowry, just what can you say? Great game, great job motivating everybody, and he's the one that winds up getting the winning goal. I don't think it's pretty kind of fitting that that's the way it happens. And the Jets pull out a victory from the jaws of defeat once again, and are now playing on Wednesday night at home, 8:50 against the Dallas Stars. So, Brett, that was the summation of my day at Canada Life Center yesterday.
Yep.
What did you think of the game? First off, how are you? And what
Good,
did you think of the game?
good. I'm glad you got your internet going again. That's good. Or your provider there. You got to talk to StreamYard and see if they can maybe provide you a discount here and there,
Yeah,
considering how they
yeah.
let you down more than once
We
in a while.
actually we actually have a service technician coming out on Wednesday to look at it.
Nice. Okay, well, that's good. Anyway,
So
yeah, I actually somebody asked me today, said, "Oh, wasn't the game awesome? How'd you like the game?" I said, "I didn't like the game last night. In fact, the vast majority of the game I didn't like. I didn't really like the first 58 minutes of the game, or 57 minutes and change, or 58 and change, or whatever it was. It's not good. Like the Jets had trouble with St. Louis. I think that's they. I don't know if you noticed, and they said, oh, they had dominated in overtime. I'm not sure they dominated. I would make that a stretch statement. They the Jets had trouble carrying the puck into St. Louis's zone. Now that could be the way St. Louis plays. They put four guys along the blue line. You got to do the dump and chase. The Jets don't play that way. They kind of let you come in and they keep you to the outside. So it just looks like the other team always has the time to carry in the puck and set something up, but it really doesn't amount to much, except you just see that that just seems to be the style of play. So it it can be frustrating at times because it looks like the Jets can't get anything going. Now, is that partially due to not having your number one center and your number one defenseman who's offensively minded as a defenseman? That is probably a huge part of it. So they just had trouble generating anything consistently and cycling the puck, and that's their thing, is getting skating and getting traffic, or getting on the forecheck, right? And doing that thing now. But that was during the regular season. Now it's the playoffs. It's a little bit of a different animal, right? It's you got to dump pucks in, you got to fire pucks in. Look how they scored the winning goal. They went into overtime, and I said, this game is not going to end with a pretty, 3-on-2, bang, 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 passing play into the net. Now, maybe it ends up with a breakaway or a 2-on-1 because somebody turns the puck over and it goes immediately the other way. But my guess is it's going to be some ugly wrist shot from the point, is going to hit three guys on the way in and go off of somebody's shin pad or off somebody's bum. And literally, that's literally what happened, because it went off of Adam Lowry's stick, and then after it was deflected off the other guy, went off Lowry's stick and then off his hiney and then into the net, which is that's a playoff goal, right? So that's kind of what it is. So I I know people are excited. Yes, it's a game of the ages, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, and I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer. But I'm just saying, you tell me, oh, that was a great game. It was not a great game. The Jets got outplayed for the vast majority of that game, the vast majority. So if you're looking at just what's fair and square and who was the better goalie, Binnington was by far the better goalie for the game than the Hellebuck was. It's not even close. So, I mean,
what
people, oh, Jets, great win. No, it wasn't a great win. It was a fluky win. If you put the Jets in the same scenario with the Star, or with St. Louis 9 times or 10 times in a row, maybe that happens once out of 10 times, maybe once out of 100. The other 99 times, they maybe get one goal, they get one empty netter scored against them, and they lose 4-2, and then they're out of the series. So it's not like they dominated. It's not like they had this. They're fluky. Very lucky to get through, considering how poorly Hellebuck played throughout the whole series, even at home at times. But anyway, that's my opinion. So maybe you can rebuttal. You could say, "Oh, Rick, you're way off base."
I how to say this? I I would agree with your assertion about it not being a dominant game. But when I looked at the shots on net at 43-29 in favor of the Jets, and the opportunities in the particularly later stages of the second period, the third period, the first overtime, the second overtime, I just felt like the Jets finally got to the game, but I think we expected from game one, and it was not a moment too soon, um, obviously. But
Yeah,
I'm happy from the standpoint that Hellebuck found his game when it mattered most.
yeah,
Um, I don't know how it came across on TV, but in overtime and double overtime, there was a confidence from Hellebuck that I hadn't seen personally all series, and I would even say that in game 1 and game 2 and game 5 when they won. Um, every puck kind of going to the net was kind of. I mean, I might have texted you this
Yeah,
in the second intermission, but it felt like every shot from 20 feet out, people were collectively holding their breaths, you
yeah,
know, assuming the worst.
yeah,
I didn't feel that in overtime and in double overtime. Um, I thought the loss of Morrissey was a huge step up for Neil Pionk. Um, playing 45 minutes, I think it was at the end of the night.
yeah. 45 or even 46, I think. I think Sandberg played 44 and Pionk
Yeah,
played 46 or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So the Jets are lucky to get out of this round. Um, two little comebacks and an overtime, double overtime. Doesn't quite, you know, provide a lot of confidence. But that being said, on Wednesday night, I think this is a new series that's 0-0. I think you're getting a new opponent, and now that the Jets have kind of gotten out of the first round, they can kind of take a collective breath as a group and hopefully play a more Winnipeg Jets style of hockey. Um, my indicator from what I seem to know, having been around hockey in general, is I think we'd be very hard pressed to have Josh Morrissey in the early part of this series, if at all. Um, that to me looks like a separated shoulder. And
was there
then I
any
don't
announcement today? Was there any
know.
announcement today? No.
Jets were off today, so the earliest announcement we did is tomorrow. Um,
For either
the other thing
Shifley
is,
or Morrissey, you're saying?
yeah, so Shifley could be in, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's in. I think he was close to playing last night. Just by virtue of skating day before the game, day after, day of the
Yep.
game. So I think it's more probable that Shifley plays over Morrissey, but we'll see when the team takes the ice for warm up in game number 1. Um, that being said, with what did you think of the St. Louis Blues? Let's kind of talk about that. We might have time for a little bit of a post mortem on the playoff teams that are eliminated once we sort of lose teams and we have fewer games to talk about. We can kind of
Okay.
go into
Okay. I got
and
to
that.
make a caveat though. I got to do a hard stop at 6 because
Uh,
I have
yeah,
something
no,
else at 6:30.
yeah,
So we should
that's
talk a little
fine.
bit about. We should talk a little bit
Yeah,
about.
yeah. So just where does St. Louis go from here before we talk about the rest of the first round quickly?
Well, yeah, we should talk. Okay, we should talk about the first round of the Jets, whatever, and then we should
Yep,
talk about the 4 series to make our predictions. Right? We got to do
yep,
that, and then
yeah. That'll be
okay.
fine. Yeah, we'll be pretty quick. I
Okay.
just want a quick thought on St. Louis, and
St.
then
Louis was a good hockey team. I mean, they deserved a better fate. If you ask me, and I'm not a fan of St. Louis, but when they won at home, actually, it was a tale of. I heard somebody say, maybe that was Montgomery said last night, the puck luck of the team that played at home was just
yeah,
unbelievable. It just seemed to follow the team that was at home. They had all the puck luck, and the visiting team did have. And it's true, the penalties, the puck off skates, this and that, or shin pads, and this. It just was
the puck over
unbelievable.
glass last night.
Puck over gas, yeah. Well, though it didn't amount to anything. But that being said, um, when St. Louis won their 3 games at home, they didn't just win; they dominated. Like they blitzed the Jets. They were not close games. They were all 7-3, 6-1, 5-2. Like they were big blowouts. And the Jets won close games going the other way. But when St. Louis played at home, they bombed the Jets. And the Jets weren't even in those games. They were completely morally, physically, spiritually, you want to say biologically, they were dominated by St. Louis. So to me, St. Louis is a good team. I think they deserved a way better fate. That's what you could see it on Braden Shen when he got interviewed. He's trying to process it. He said, I can't believe it. Like we dominated. We dominated this game for 58 minutes. And now for a pair of minutes at the end, we can't clear our own net to hang on to a 3-1 lead, and then we lose in overtime. Yeah, but remember, shots are, listen, if you think the shots that the Jets had in the third period up
Yeah.
until the last 2 minutes of play, they were not good shots. They were all wrist shots from 50 feet out with 20 guys in front of the net. They weren't like, listen, if I'm a coach and I can keep everybody in the outside and keep you throwing wrist shots at the net with nobody in front, feet out, go ahead. You could do that all day to me. That's not going to score many goals. So, and the Jets don't put any traffic in front of the net. Unfortunately, usually they don't, except for certain guys. Most guys are afraid to go to the front of net, except for Lowry, Niederreiter, Iafallo, maybe Velarde. The other guys, they're not front guys, front of the net guys. So that being said, I don't think I watched the game and I didn't see the Jets dominate. They didn't dominate possession. In fact, it even showed in the third period. St. Louis had more offensive zone time than the Jets did by like 3-minute margin. So it wasn't close. So to me, St. Louis, if you're asking me, in my opinion, and I love the Jets, St. Louis was the better team in this series. The Jets were just fluky, in my opinion. Now, that's sometimes the way it is. Now you get through the first round, everyone says, oh, the first round is the hardest round. Okay. The Jets aren't going anywhere with Morrissey out, Scheifele out, and Hellebuck playing like an East Coast Hockey League goaltender backup.
Right.
So, and now you don't know if you have Scheifele. You probably don't have Morrissey. I agree with you. It's either a separated shoulder or a broken collarbone, or it's a sprained shoulder. Could be. It may not be broke, but it's sprained. That could be like a week or two. And that's sometimes a harder injury because it's a muscle injury. It's hard to believe that it happens from getting hit like that. It's not like they were horrible hits. And one was even his own. He would hit somebody else. And that's when he really kind of had his shoulder slump. But if Hellebuck has to play way better, the Jets have a chance against Dallas. They play well against the Stars all year long, but Hellebuck has to be better. He has to be like he was in the overtime. If he plays like that, they have a chance, even without Morrissey. If they have Scheifele back in the lineup, they could manage it without Morrissey. But with Hellebuck playing like he did on the road in St. Louis for those 3 games, if that Hellebuck plays now, the Jets are out in 4. It's not even close. They get bombed by Dallas. So
quick thing. Dallas, Colorado, 4 goals in the third period for Dallas, overcoming the 2-0 deficit.
Yep.
I was saying already, Mikko Rantanen having 4 points, 3 goals, and an assist.
Yeah.
What do you think the Avalanche are thinking in regards to Mikko Rantanen, who had a pretty quiet series with up until game 5, 6, and 7 of that series?
Yeah. Listen, he's a good player. Avalanche didn't want to pay him the money. They chose not to pay him because they didn't want to pay him as much or close to as much as McKinnon's making and Makar is making. So that's their choice. They got to live with it. Now they have 2 pretty good players in Neshkus or whatever. I always screw up his name and I never say it right. But Neshkus and Jack Drury. Okay, they have a little bit more depth. Rantanen, he played like a man possessed there that last period, and he pushed the Stars through. But the Stars, they are not good defensively. Like they were exposed by the Jets throughout the season. Without Heiskanen in that lineup, they've got holes in that defense. Now, the only thing is, can the Jets exploit that team without Morrissey bringing the puck up? Pionk's going to play on the first power play. Okay, good. Fleury will play on the second. Okay, fine. But, and Scheifele comes back in. Okay, now they've got 4 solid lines. They're only missing 1 star defenseman. Okay, just like Dallas made it through without Heiskanen, maybe the Jets can make it through. But you know, the Stars, they're a good hockey team. It's not a fluke. Most people pick them to be the representative of the West. Like if you look at the hockey experts, they picked them at the beginning of the year and they picked them right when the playoffs started to be the team that makes it to the Stanley Cup from the West. So they're going to be a hard out for the Jets, a hard out.
Can we make our pit with? I have to step out for just 1 second here. Did a hearing aid battery.
Okay.
But could we make our pits and then I'll get you to break down and talk about maybe how our picks were in the first round, and then look ahead at the other Western
Okay.
series between Edmonton and Vegas.
Okay. So can I ask you? So you have no knowledge about Shifley and Morrissey right now.
Now,
The only thing we know is that all things being equal, Shifley is probably closer than Morrissey.
correct, unless
No.
that was a very good decoy the day before the game.
Okay. 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 So
I'm
you want
going
me to
down.
make the pick for
I'm
all the
going down.
series or just
Yeah, just this series for now.
okay? I'm picking Winnipeg in 7.
Really, after you just said all of that about
Yeah,
the Jets.
because the Jets still match up really good. If it was Colorado, if Colorado had hung on, I would have said Colorado in 5, because Colorado have the Jets number. They've had them for forever. Whereas Dallas, this year, for whatever reason,
Okay.
the Jets
Okay.
match up really good against Dallas. I don't know why. They just do. They played well against them every time they played, on the road and at home. So,
Can I ask you,
yeah,
before I give you my pick,
yeah.
do you feel we're going to see a stylistic change in this series compared to what the Jets saw in round number 1?
Maybe I'd like to. I'd like to see the Jets get back to that skating style. I don't think the Stars play that same heavy game the way the way the Blues did. I mean, I
No,
saw
no,
that
and that's why I'm asking that is
yeah.
because I think I'm expecting the skating wide open,
Well,
less
skating game.
physical series.
Yeah, skating game, which would be fine for the Jets, right? Because they have good skaters and they have a well-balanced
Right.
team. I think the Jets will do a better job of playing a defense against the Stars than the Avalanche did. I mean, that Avalanche Stars game, some of those games were just like track meets, back and forth, 3-on-2 this way, 4-on-2 this way, 3-on-2, 4-on-2, 4-on-2, 3-on-2, 2-on-1. It was just constant rushes going back and forth. I don't think the Jets are going to want to get into that track meet, but I think the Jets can forecheck. I think the Jets can put pressure on Dallas, and especially if Shifley comes back. And I think the Jets can win a lot of games at home. And they only have to win 4 games at home and they can get through the series. And so, but I am counting on Hellebuck. I just think, I don't know what it is about the first round. I don't know. Maybe this was just this big hurdle they had to overcome. I'm expecting the Jets to play better. I'm just expecting them to rise from this and to have confidence, for Hellebuck to be Hellebuck and the Jets to play the Stars like they played him all year, even without Morrissey. Be interesting to see who comes in for Morrissey. Do they put in Heinola to play with DeMello? They'll probably move Pionk and Samberg to be the number 1 pairing and move down DeMello, whether DeMello plays with Fleury or does DeMello play with maybe Fleury comes in. Then if Logan Stanley's good, he's the 3rd pairing with Schenn. I would do that. But Fleury's actually played really well. I don't know, maybe just a comment on that. Like, oh, he's the 7th defenseman, 8th defenseman. He's not a superstar. He makes mistakes, but you know what he's got? He's got speed. He could push the puck up the ice. He does like Joshua, and he's bigger. He's got a little bit of grit to him, a little bit of size. He doesn't let guys push him around.
That was the one thing. That was the one thing, Rich, that I noticed yesterday with Hayden Fleury.
Yeah.
He was skated and he was moving, and that helped the Jets. And to be blunt, if Logan Stanley was in the lineup, we don't win the game yesterday. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Now he may still end up in the lineup if he's healthy, because he's going to come back in for Morrissey, and like I say, then they shuffle.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know how you take Hayden Fleury out of the lineup.
Well, I mean, if Josh Morrissey is good, maybe you push Hayden Fleury down to Luke Schenn. That's a possibility. That's another one.
Well, again, I do not foresee a situation where you can have both Luke Schenn and Logan Stanley in the lineup and on the same pair. Just see game 6. To be honest, I've seen enough of those two on a third defense pair.
Okay.
But anyway, that being said, I wanted to see if you could change my mind. That's why I asked all of that. So much uncertainty with the Jets. I'm going Dallas in 6. I hate to do it. To me, that looks like a team on fumes. I hope I'm wrong. I'll be happy to be wrong. Dallas in 6 for me.
Okay.
Rich, you want to just do your breakdown on Dallas and Vegas, or Edmonton and Vegas?
Sure.
Maybe talk about the LA Kings blowing that 2-0 deficit. Oilers winning 4 out of the next 4 out of the next.
No, they won 4 in a row. They were
Yeah,
down
four in
2-0.
a
They
row.
won
Yeah,
4 in a row
yeah.
because they won
Sorry,
the
for
series.
some reason I thought the series went 7. So it's 4 in a row.
Yep.
And most importantly, I think Calvin Pickard winning all 4 games.
Yes.
And subsequently, Rob Blake no longer being with the LA Kings.
Yeah. They parted mutual ways. But
I'll be
yes, I
right
can
back,
talk
Rip.
about.
But what do you
Yeah.
see in that series
Okay,
between
I will
Vegas
talk.
and Edmonton?
Sure, I will talk. First of all, I loved the series Edmonton and LA. I feel bad for LA. I really thought this was the year that they could get past Edmonton because I really thought they had Edmonton's number and they played really well against Edmonton and against a lot of teams all year. They were a big headache for the Jets for sure. That's without a defensive style. But Edmonton had a lot of firepower and was able to overcome LA, and LA did not get enough scoring when they needed. And I think that was the difference. And then having Pickard play really, really well. And shocking that they left Stuart Skinner after games 1 and 2 and just flip over to Pickard. And now he's the guy. He's won 4 in a row. So we'll see. So that's Edmonton, LA, and Vegas over Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, that was a good series. Minnesota, I just think, was in a tough relative to Vegas. I think Vegas had a little bit better net minding, a little bit better overall scoring, a little bit better penalty killing, a little bit better power play. So Vegas is through. So now you have Edmonton and Vegas. I think this is going to be a really good series. All 4 of these matchups, these are 8 very, very good teams. I mean, Dallas and Winnipeg, like they were 1 and 2 in the Central. Edmonton and Vegas, they were 1 and 3. Carolina, Washington, they were 1 and 2 in their division. Florida, Toronto, they were 1 and 3. So you've got all of the 1 seeds through in or all of the division winners, yeah, and all the 1 seeds through, and then a pair of 2 seeds and a pair of 3 seeds. So you've got 8 really, really good teams. And you look at these 8 teams and you say, now I look in the future and I say, who could win the Stanley Cup? Any of these teams could win it, depending upon health and who gets hot and getting fluky and getting a goaltender to get on a tear like Edmonton has with Pickard or like Jets had with Hellebuck last night. So I think anything's possible and any of these teams could win the Stanley Cup. That being said, I like this series, Edmonton and Vegas. I think it's going to be not quite the same as Edmonton, LA. I think Vegas is a better skating team. I think they're a better scoring team. I think they move the puck better and they forecheck the puck. And I think they're going to give Edmonton some trouble, especially because Edmonton still does not have Ekholm in the lineup. I think Edmonton is going to struggle getting the puck out of their own end up to their forwards and doing it in an efficient way because Vegas is very good on the forecheck and on the puck when they carry the puck into the offensive zone. So for me, I really like the Vegas Golden Knights in this series. I think that it's going to be a good series, though. I think Edmonton's going to win a lot of games. And my pick is Vegas in 7. So that's how I see it. Now, Michael is still not back. So I'm going to talk a little bit then about Carolina, Washington. Washington beat Montreal. We talked about that already. Carolina beat New Jersey. So now you've got seeds number 1 and 2 from the Metropolitan. Okay. So 2 of the best teams in the East, 2 of the best, or the 2 best teams in the Metro. Who's going to win? Well, this is again, Washington, and I said this before, they are built as a playoff team. They got no superstars. They had only 1 player rated in the top 25 in the NHL players for the season, and that was Ovechkin. All the rest of their guys, Strome, Mangiapane, Wilson, you just go down the list. Who's a defenseman there? I'm off the top of my head. I forget his name, whatever, the superstar defenseman there. But Washington is built as a playoff team. They are big, they forecheck, they skate, and they are deadly on the power play. And that is a recipe for winning a ton of games in the playoffs. Carolina is a good hockey team. They did amazingly well to recover players and pieces after bringing on Rantanen and then moving away from Rantanen. And I think Carolina is a good team. I think Carolina is going to push Washington right to the wall. But in my mind, the Capitals, I picked them to go all the way to the final. So Washington beats Carolina in 7, in my humble opinion. So.
Okay, sorry about that, Rich. I had a little bit of trouble finding my hearing aid batteries. But no, did you give your pet for Edmonton, Vegas already?
I did Vegas in 7, and now I've done Washington in 7.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go Vegas in 6 and Carolina in 6.
Ooh, I like it.
I know it's a little bit off the beaten path. I just liked the way Carolina played in that first round. To be able to tell me that they're going to have a lot of success.
Yeah.
I think that star defenseman you were trying to think of is Jacob Chychrun in Washington.
No, there's Chychrun. No, the other guy that's been there forever.
Carlson. Carlson.
See, I kept thinking he's Swedish. He's not Swedish. He's American, but he's got a Swedish name. That's why.
So
Robson.
I just caught the tail end of that.
It was Carlson because I was almost going to say the guy that's been there almost as long as Ovechkin. But anyway,
and I remember watching him when he played in the Manitoba Moose in the Calder Cup final with the Hershey Bears. That's how far back John Carlson goes. I can't really argue with a lot of your assessments in that Washington series. The only thing that would kind of concern me is I think Carolina is a little better built than Montreal for playoff experience wise. But again, I need to be a lot of those 1-goal games. And I think Vegas got tested with Minnesota, the 3 straight overtime wins. And I just don't know how much more Cal Pickard can run. I also think Vegas has the horses to defend McDavid and Draisaitl a lot better than LA does.
I
was excited about the series with, excuse me, starts tonight. Carolina. Florida taking on Toronto. Toronto coming off a series win in 6 against the Ottawa Senators after dropping 2 games, while the Florida Panthers dispatched the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5. How do we see this series shaping up?
Another series. I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I said these 8 teams are great teams. I mean, you couldn't pick there are no flukes here. There's no wild card teams. There's if you look, all 4 division winners got through. And then second place team, Carolina and Florida. Or sorry, no, Carolina Florida was third place team, right? Yeah, Florida's third place. Florida and Edmonton were third place teams. Carolina
was the second place team. They had home ice over New Jersey.
Right. That's right. Carolina and Dallas were the second place teams. Edmonton and Florida were the third place teams. So you've got 4 number 1 seeds, 2 number 2s, and 2 number 3s. You have got 8 teams that could win the Stanley Cup here. If we go like a month into the future and you say it's this team, it's that team, I could see that because they got hot. The goalie got hot. They stayed healthy. They fluked their way. They were able to get through a series in 5 games versus 7. So they're able to rest, whatever it is. But this Florida-Toronto series, this is going to be great hockey. Every game in this second round is going to be amazing.
Yep.
No flukes. No, now some teams may blow out another team. That's fine. But I'm saying these are great matchups. Florida and Toronto, they hate each other. I think Toronto, they got over that hump of getting through the first round and they pushed Ottawa out of the way, even though Ottawa gave them all they had. Florida, in my mind, was I still see they're a little bit like the Jets. They're a little bit fluky. Florida was a little bit fluky to get through in this thing against the Lightning. So I like Florida, but I'm not I'm not all in on them like I am on other teams. And that's why I think Florida is vulnerable. I still think they are not the same team as they were last year. I think they're missing a few pieces. And Toronto, I hate saying this because you're going to take advantage of this. You're going to record this and you're going to play this to me every time we see each other. You're going to play this to me off your phone or
I
something.
remind you every time I see you. So
Yeah. But no, it's about Toronto. Rick said this about Toronto, blah, 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 blah. But I think Toronto is a completely different team than they were even at the beginning of the season or even at the midway point, let's say in December. And to me, this is a year where Toronto can go much deeper. I have Toronto going up against Washington. That was my pick at the beginning to be the conference final showdown. And I still think it's going to be Toronto. I'm picking Toronto in 7. How about you?
My East final was the same. I said Carolina, Toronto when they started. I'm saying the same. Leafs win it in 7 at Scotiabank. The goals to playoff past are gonzo.
Wow. Okay. I love it.
1 through 6, Toronto had the best defense that they've had in
a long time.
Yeah,
I agree.
Leafs in
so
7.
We should also. Sorry.
Yeah, I just reaffirming my Leafs in 7.
Okay.
I'm so excited. Let's go.
That would be something, if this all like so far so good. Having a Leafs Jets final, I tell you something that I wouldn't know what to do. I would have to. I'd have to chain you down. I would have to go over to your place and chain you down so you didn't explode. Like, just be like a neutron bomb and just go off.
I know. I lost one of my finalists already in the Colorado Avalanche. So my bracket from the beginning of the playoffs is already kind of in shambles, but kind of not.
That's okay. We should review in the last 5 minutes here before
I'm curious. Yeah.
We go, and we could talk about the Jets on Wednesday night. But first round, you and I each picked Winnipeg in 6. Winnipeg won in 7. So each of us got a point. We picked Colorado, me in 7, you in 6. Colorado lost. We got nothing. You and I each picked Carolina, me in 6, you in 5. Carolina 1 in 5. You got 2, I got 1. You picked Toronto in 6. I picked Toronto in 7. Toronto 1 in 6. You got 2, I got 1. I picked Vegas in 6. You picked Vegas in 7. Vegas 1 in 6. I got 2, you got 1. So, and then we didn't get anything right with LA Edmonton because we both picked LA and Edmonton 1 in 6. We both picked Tampa over Florida and Florida 1 in 5. And I picked correctly Washington over Montreal. You went out on a limb and tried to go on some fantasy for Montreal to win in 7. Not even close. Washington 1 in 5. I picked they would win in 5. So after the first round, out of a possible 16 points, we both have failing grades. I have 7 points and you have 6 points. So I'm only slightly better in my failing grade than you. I was almost a passing grade. If I gotten 1 more point, if the Jets had won on in St. Louis versus in at home, then I would have gotten Winnipeg in 6 and I would have got 1 more point.
It happens.
So anyway, first round, it's 7 versus 6. So that's what we are now going into the second round. I like these picks, Michael. Your picks are not crazy. I could see the Stars winning in 6, especially if Scheifele and Morrissey don't come around and the Jets can't get this secondary scoring from other guys. I like Carolina in 6. You're right. Carolina could surprise. They're a good team. They're tough. They're playoff tested. They got a great head coach in Rod Brindamore. So, you could Svechnikov there. He could light it up on the power play, and suddenly Carolina wins 3 of the first 4 games in the series. It's totally possible. So, your picks,
I don't think Aho and company have been as good as they can be.
Oh, you think they're still leaving something on the table?
Yeah, I still think they are.
Okay.
I think New Jersey's not that superior of a team, with all due respect.
Okay. So who's playing tonight? There's only 1 game tonight, right? It's just the
one
Leafs
game tonight because of the draft lottery, which begins in 1 minute.
Right. And the draft lottery is just deciding the order of the non-playoff teams, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And for the first time, we get to see the balls come out of the machine. hasn't been pre-done. So we'll get to see the numbers line up as they pull the numbers from the machine for the first time ever.
I know so many people complained about that. They wanted to see it live, not just have cards flipped by Bill Daly. So I love
Well,
that.
and you can flip the cards, it's fine. But if you it removes the fact of, oh, it's rigged, no, it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. No, but that's
It's
so cool. Like, no, but it's so cool to have the
It
balls
is.
bouncing around, and then one comes out the chute, and you can't see what it is because the chute is covered, right? So you don't see it.
Right.
And then Bill Daly can be behind a platform and say, with the 12th pick,
Yeah.
it's the, and then he could turn the logo and hold up the ball.
Yeah. It's actually they're gonna match up the number combinations. They're gonna do the lottery to find out who has the number 2, who has the number 1, and then everybody slots in after that.
They're going to do it that way.
Yeah, that's the
as
way they're
opposed
gonna
to,
do it, from my understanding.
not from the back to front. Okay,
No,
that's interesting.
no, because you have to figure out who wins the lottery first, and then slot everybody accordingly. So
Okay.
it's gonna be
Right, because
interesting.
because you're right. Somebody could move up, and then how does that affect everybody? Yeah,
Right, and then you can only move up 10 spots.
right.
Before you
That's the
can move
maximum.
up,
It's none of this jumping 16 points or
and
whatever
you
to get
can't
somebody
win
to
the
pick.
lottery more than twice every 6 years or something like that.
Yeah, they got a few
So,
rules. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. So
we'll talk about the coaching changes, and we'll talk about the general manager changes next week when we have a little more time.
Yeah, yeah. But what's interesting, I just want to say, so
Yep.
you like the Jets, you're a Winnipeg boy, but you're picking the Stars, but you're still going to cheer for the Jets. So you'd be happy to be wrong in your pool pick, is what you're
I
saying.
said that, and I will stand by that.
Okay. You are nothing if you are not a man of your word, and I appreciate that. All right. Have fun tonight, folks. Enjoy the Leaf game.
Enjoy the lottery.
Enjoy the lottery, the Leaf game. Yeah. Sounds
And
great.
we should be, we'll be back next week on Monday. We'll be right in between game 4. So between
Sounds
game
good.
4 and game 5. So, all right, for Red Patty, whoops, I'm just trying to find our outro here. This is Michael Dell saying, whoops, have yourself a good week, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye from Winnipeg.